welcome back to Anime-chan. Today I'm going to show you my reaction highlights of One Piece episode 40, 41 and 42, and then I'm going to share my review at the end. It is going to be quite a long video, you guys. If you've watched one of my videos, you know I do them quite differently because I love to talk, I love to think, and that's why anime like One Piece shoots to my favorites list quite quickly because it gives me so much to think about. The characters are so dynamic, the story is soaked in details and fun and everything. So that's why this is basically the only anime I post 2 videos of every week and a minimum of 2 episodes per video. So that's a minimum of 4 episodes per week, which is, to me, that's binge watching. Let's jump right into the reaction highlights though, because my review is going to be quite long. Thank you guys so much for waiting an extra day for this video. When I do 3 episodes, it just helps me so that I don't have to rush through the notes or editing or anything. So at the end of the day, you get better quality videos and I feel happier. And if I feel happier, I can do and work more and better. Okay, so enjoy the video and don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Oh, I have hot chocolate, by the way. It's hard for you to make maps. You, seamen, fishmen, the most superior of all races. Well, not superior, all race, but you're superior to humans, and yet you rely on a human to make you maps because you can't. For shame. You don't treat Nakama the way you treated her and her family. Okay, episode 40, 41 and 42 notes. I think there's quite a lot to go through, so I'm going to jump right in and read through them for you guys. If you prefer reading through the notes yourself and not hearing me read them out loud for you, you can always check the link in the description. There should be a link to my notes. But if you prefer listening to me kind of like a podcast, you can go about, do some other work and just have me in the background talking about one of your favorite anime. That's what I'm here for. That's why I do this out loud. Episode 40, Proud Tall Warriors, Dramatic Battle of Sanji and Usopp. Damn, this was a one good episode, and I guess my favorite part would be the Usopp fight. I was shookest. I was so happy for him. I was so proud of him, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with the notes. Episode 40 starts off with Kurobi keeping Sanji back from helping Gin and Nojiko save Luffy. Kurobi's moves are definitely more badass looking than Arlong's in my opinion, but they're still not nearly as entertaining as the main character's moves. That reminds me, I made another Google document that lists my updated One Piece lists. It's difficult to find the memorable quotes, list of moves I've seen up to now, and each updated favorite characters list. So when I make these notes, I highlight quotes in pink and characters lists. Whenever I change them, I make them blue, but it's hard to go through my notes every time to find the last list I made or the last quote I put. So this document, the new one, will contain my updated list, but I'll still post the progression or new additions in these notes because then when someone reads it back, they can see how it changed over time. But this list will show you what it is currently. So every time I'm busy with my notes and I want to change something around, I go to this one, get the most updated one, copy that in, change it around how I want to, and then take the new updated version and put it in here, okay? So this contains all my up-to-date favorites list, up-to-date best to worst villains list, most memorable quotes, a collection of those so that they don't get lost amongst all my notes, all the signature moves I've seen so far with a short description. There's a lot. Zoro, Usopp. Oh, and these ones with the star are the ones I like the most. Like ones that stand out for me. Gomu Gomu no pistol, Gomu Gomu no Gatling gun, Gomu Gomu no Ono, which is axe, Gomu Gomu no Kazaguruma, which is pinwheel. Zoro, I don't have a favorite move of him yet. I just like his fighting style overall. Usopp, I like the Kain Boshi, the one where he fires a flame pellet, and especially liked it when he put Chu a light. He sent him a light. Okay. Oh, and Usopp Wagomu, I also actually need to put a star next to that one, but it's not necessarily the move that was funny. It was just in these episodes how it was utilized when he did the rubber band thing. That was hilarious. So I'm not going to put a star next to him, but in these episodes I really enjoyed that. Sanji, I like the Collier move, and Epole. Those two were really cool. But yeah, I listed all the ones. Gigot, mutton shots, all those kinds of moves. Okay, I also made a little list of devil fruit users. So far I only know about Luffy and Buggy, but clearly there will be more. We have yet to go into the grand line. So badass points, I actually did start a badass points thing. So starting at episode 40, everyone starts off at a 0. So I'm gonna give badass points to whoever does something badass. And Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy all have 5, but you'll see in my notes where I gave them the points. But I'm starting at episode 40, so everyone starts off at 0. When Kurobi dived down with Sanji and his body started being crushed and blood came out of his mouth, I thought to myself that this is actually quite violent. I also read previously that when Arlong shot Bellemere, the gun was pointed at her head, not her chest. So that was something that was censored. Maybe I can understand them censoring Zeph eating his leg. They changed it to something kind of just as violent in my opinion, but they didn't want to show him eating his leg. They didn't need to. They could have hinted at it, but they didn't want to show him eating his own leg. So I understand that. But some of this censoring seems a bit pointless considering other stuff they do choose to show is just as violent. I'm not complaining about the violence, don't get me wrong. I'm more saying that some of the censoring doesn't make sense to me, it's inconsistent. I'm just curious as to how do they go about deciding that they can show Zeph breaking off his own leg and Sanji's body getting crushed by the pressure and the blood spurting out of his mouth, but they choose to have Arlong's gun pointed at Bellemere's chest and not her head. It's not like they show when they shot, it's not like they needed to show brains spattering out or anything. I don't know. I'm overthinking it, but I was just curious, who decides, oh, no. We do not show head shooting, we show chest shooting. Okay, thought this scene image was really good. Here's where Sanji got his first 5 badass points, is when he was underwater, he was being totally crushed and he was pointing at Kurobi bitch, I'm gonna get you, and that was so cool. I thought that was really badass. Sanji's moves used in this episode. So this is the first time I think that I noticed move names from Sanji. Collier, shoot, Epole, Cotolet, Sele, Poitrine. I know these are French words. I don't know how to say them. Gigot, mutton shots. The other's mouton shot, but it's just mutton shot. Because here you spell it like mutton, Mutton. I don't know. But I feel like it's really cool. His moves were one on top of the other. Were boom, 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 boom. It was so good. It was so exciting to watch. But like I said, my favorite two was the first one, Collier, and then Epole, when he went his foot went down whoppa. I love that. A downward kick targeting the opponent's shoulder. meant to knock them off balance or drive them into the ground. That was so fucking cool. In the reaction, I called In the reaction, I called Arlong a zealot. I'm actually not entirely sure if he can be called that, but in some sense I think he can. Then I googled the meaning of zealot. A zealot is a person who is fanatical and uncompromising in pursuit of their religious, political, or other ideals. I think since it says other ideals, that means I can apply the term to Arlong, because his ideals or his beliefs are that, you know, fishmen are superior and should rule the world, and other beings like humans should buy their lives from them because that's how it's supposed to be. That's nature. That's natural because the heavens gave him gills to breathe underwater and lungs to breathe above water. So clearly, of course, that means that humans are inferior and should buy their lives for millions of bellies. But a zealot is a person who has very strong opinions about something to the point where it's fanatical. So wouldn't we say that is kind of what Arlong's beliefs are? They're fanatical and tries to make other people have them too. Forcing his beliefs onto others, forcing others to buy their lives from him because they're worthless they have to buy their lives, because otherwise what are their lives worth? Only the money that they can give him. I think that could be applied to Arlong's racist beliefs, so that's why I think it's fair for me to call him a zealot. I love how they show Usopp's character development in this episode. He may not be as strong or powerful as Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy. I haven't really saw Nami fight yet, but he chose to fight for those he loves, despite the overwhelming fear he was feeling. That made me think of this quote: bravery is not a quality of the body, it is of the soul. His body, physical strength, may not be as strong as the others, but his soul certainly is. This is a quote from Usopp that I really liked. They face hardships every day and they laugh like they're really having fun. I want to laugh till I cry too, but if I don't fight with everything I've got, there's no way I deserve to be on the same boat as them. There's no way I can laugh with them. I found that really sweet. I like how I said at first there's no way he even stands a chance. Like when he started fighting Chu, I didn't think he should compare himself to the others. But in the end, he defeated Chu, possibly by comparing himself with the others, not out of jealousy, but because he was inspired by them. He went beyond what anyone thought was possible and defeated one of Arlong's strongest men. Just like Zoro and Sanji did, they also defeated two of his other strongest men. Granted, Zoro had a life-threatening slash across his body and Sanji started the fight underwater, but still, I believe Usopp is keeping up quite well and I'm so proud of him. And I think it's really important to point out that by comparing himself with them, because that's essentially what he was doing, the difference is he wasn't jealous of them, he just was inspired by them. He wanted to be more like them so that he can, you know, stand on their level. And I feel like that's so amazing because often in real life, we're held back by comparing ourselves to others because we're jealous. And then we either try and better ourselves out of spite, or which actually helps sometimes, bettering yourself out of spite, because at the end of the day, you're still bettering yourself. Or like when you're jealous and you're like, oh, that girl's so skinny, or that guy's so smart, or and that ends up holding you back because of the intention with which you're comparing yourself. And then you start making excuses like, oh, but their parents are rich, or they're this, and then you end up just you're the only one holding yourself back, where you could choose to be like Usopp. What would Usopp do? You know, rather than comparing yourself out of jealousy, just aim to be better and push yourself. Okay, there's just a list of the new Usopp moves, which I did include here. I definitely believe part of the reason why Usopp was able to defeat Chu was because Chu severely underestimated him. The fact that his opponent doesn't see him as much of a threat because of him running away or acting stupid will come in handy more in the future. Will come in handy more in future fights. At least that's what I expect. I'm literally laughing out loud again while I'm editing because of his repeated Usopp Hammer, Usopp Hammer. So you guys know that I make my notes while I'm editing, and I started laughing again at that scene. The part where Usopp is lying on the ground after just defeating Chu, he shouts, "See that, loser? I can do it. You see that, you jerk? Don't look down on me, damn it." And he's not shouting at Chew, it feels to me. And I wrote, one could assume he's screaming at Chew, but I wonder if in some sense he's also saying that to the viewers who underestimated him. I have read some of the SBS. One of my patrons, Zagrash, sends me which ones are safe to read. And Oda isn't afraid to call some of his fans idiots or make fun of their ideas and stuff. Like he's not like, if someone tells him an idea, he'll be like, no, that's a stupid idea. He's not shy about like, oh, well, that's creative, but I don't think I'll use it. Like, he's not like I would do that, but he's like, nope, stupid idea. And I think like he wouldn't shy away from doing something like this, maybe telling the viewers off for underestimating Usopp. You see that, you jerk, don't look down on me, damn it. So I wouldn't be too surprised if Usopp's words are just as much meant for the viewers who thought he was lame just because he's not as strong as the others. Episode 41, Luffy's Best, Nami'S Courage and the Straw Hat. So it's interesting, the episode's name is Nami'S Courage, even though, you know, Nami's not really doing much at this point, but if you look at these symbolic imagery, you understand why the episode is called Nami'S Courage. Because just because someone's not necessarily doing much physically, that doesn't mean not a lot is going on for them, you know? So I think that's why this imagery of the spider and the butterfly was very important. So Arlong says, you can never kill me and you can never run away from me. And then the focus is on the spider. It's like the spider, Arlong is saying, you can never kill me and you can never run away from me. And he asks her, are you my nakama or theirs? The butterfly, symbolizing Nami, flying towards the spider's trap. The trap is Arlong saying he will spare the people of Kokoyashi village if she chooses him. So that's the trap he's setting. The butterfly in the episode gets caught in the trap. But then, so in her mind, it's almost like she got caught in it again. She was like, that's the best decision to make. But then the image switches to a scene of the villagers shouting at Arlong, you bastard, no matter what you say, you just want to keep her. This is very important, I believe, because I think Nami would have chosen to save the villagers. Most people would in that situation. Most people would have chosen that. If they didn't essentially remind her that they were there because they weren't willing to live anymore, if that means that she had to suffer for them. The people of Kokoyashi village marched up to Arlong Park knowing they were going to die after all. Nami then continues to think about Luffy and what he had said to her after the people of Kokoyashi village left to fight Arlong. And that was like the trigger or the tipping point. She thinks, I can't doubt what he said. And the butterfly in the imagery starts fluttering wildly, trying to escape from the trap. So she's caught between wanting or being trapped by Arlong to save the people, but then thinking of what Luffy said and thinking why these people were there in the first place. It's like these two choices going like against each other, and she doesn't know what to do, and it's you know, chaotic, it's anxiety. And that's the butterfly flapping wildly to try and escape from the trap, and the spider then scuttles towards the butterfly really quickly, and just before the spider reaches the butterfly, she turns around and says, everyone, I'm sorry, will you die with me? This symbolizes the moment that the butterfly breaks free from the spider's web. I think that was a very beautiful, symbolic scene. I really love that. The following was an image from the manga shared with me by Chandler, a patron. So it's basically the same scene where Zoro says to Nami, 30 seconds, I won't last any longer than that. And it's that scene, but they didn't show Zoro basically doing the thumbs down thing, which doesn't really change the scene all that much for someone like me who didn't know that was what the manga looked like. But Chandler said, it may not be that big of a deal, but there's one scene from the manga they didn't bring to the episode, I don't know why, that I liked. That thumbs down gesture from Zoro, I see it as him telling Nami that Arlong has now lost. I wonder why Arlong gets offended by the phrase half fish bastard. It may have something to do with the distinction between fishmen and mermen. The importance in the distinction was pointed out to me by a few commenters, and yes, I'm aware that it's technically a spoiler, but whatever, I know now. So, because the subtitles often said merman, merman, and people kept pointing out to me, even though my patrons had already told me they said the more accurate interpretation of that is fishmen. And that's all you need to say. But now people in the comments kept saying, well, actually it should be fishmen because mermen, only later in the series it will become important why this distinction should be made. Like, can you just not say fishmen is a better interpretation, or fishmen is a better, what's the word? Translation, that's the word. Zoro's facial expression here is kind of hilarious. I did notice in the moment because it was a very intense and serious scene. It's not necessarily the expression, but how it's drawn that makes it funny, the exaggerated shocked eyes. So while editing, I really kind of laughed at this face. But these few episodes had a lot of those faces. There was one with Johnny and Yosaku, where I think Arlong did something and then their mouths went open wide and they had these big tongues like screaming, and it was these big tongues doing this. It was a weird facial expression, but it was so funny. It was so cartoonish, and because this is like 20 years old, I feel like many cartoons today were probably inspired by, you know, anime and Oda's work. It's obviously very old, so I really think that a lot of Western cartoons were inspired by, because that to me made me think of a cartoon that I watched but that came out after, for example, One Piece. So I'm not saying One Piece specifically, although I wouldn't be surprised if it did. I'm not saying One Piece specifically inspired some cartoonish faces and stuff, but I really think that a lot of the older anime are the forerunners or whatever of even Western cartoons. I don't exactly know what I'm basing that on, but it's a feeling. It's like an instinct that I have. I feel like that specific Johnny and Yosaku faces inspired some cartoon I saw once afterwards. I don't know. I'm using a lot of images in these notes, in the notes for this episode, but I kind of need to. For example, the following can best be shown with screenshots. So this is Arlong holding Zoro, and he says, he has to die. I have to do it right now. And where the emphasis was, it's on has. The above image is the subtitles that was included in the episode I was watching. The emphasis made me think Arlong meant something different than he did. I thought it looked like he was almost respecting Zoro too much to kill him, and he was trying to convince himself to do it anyway. So I paused. I didn't include this in the reaction because I sorted it out afterwards. I didn't include that in the reaction because I talked to my patrons about it already, and I don't want people to comment about this because I've already sorted out what it really meant. Because here's a different interpretation from another translation. The below image was sent to me by a patron, assimilator. The difference in subtitles make it apparent that Arlong did not respect Zoro in that sense, but he did think it was very important to kill him as soon as possible because of how dangerous Arlong realized Zoro was. If Zoro could fight the way he did with this wound, 5 badass points for Zoro because of that fucking wound, and he was fighting, literally kept pushing himself. Imagine what he would be capable of at full health. That was more likely what Arlong meant. Okay, so here is the scene. He's a man I need to kill for sure. So that's a much different tone or meaning. I cut this discussion about what Arlong meant out of the reaction highlights because the different subtitles that I found out about afterwards already cleared it up for me. Okay, episode 42, Bursting Out. Fishman Arlong, fearsome attack from the sea. The Arlong versus Luffy fight finally really begins. I have to say, even though Luffy's fighting style is more entertaining than badass compared to Sanji and Zoro in my opinion, his attitude is absolutely badass. And for that, I'm going to give him 5 badass points. And this is specifically for at the end of episode 41. Why didn't I not put the notes here? I don't know. But anyway, it kind of links to episode 42. His attitude was a lot better at the end of episode 41 compared to the beginning of episode 42. They replayed what he said at the start of episode 42, but it wasn't the same scene or tone or anything. And I found that kind of strange. So at the end of episode 41, he says, show me. I'm not going to lose to you because I'm the king of the pirates, or I'm going to be the king of the pirates, something. but his attitude was so dark and badass. And then they kind of, he said the same thing at the start of episode 42, the recap part, but it wasn't the same scene, it wasn't the same voice, anything. So that, I found that weird, but I gave him 5 badass points because seeing the scene replayed at the start of episode 42 made me really appreciate how fucking great it was at the end of episode 41. Okay, here's a quote from Luffy that I really love. I know that I need others to help me if I want to keep living. Some random fun facts about shark teeth, since Arlong's teeth can grow back so fast. And I remember saying in the reaction something about, oh yeah, shark teeth can do that, but they can't really grow back in a few seconds. But just hear me out why I'm reading this to you. Sharks' mouths are basically teeth factories. Shark teeth grow in conveyor belt-like series and rows, with the biggest teeth facing outwards. Over time, the smaller teeth in the back grow and move up, replacing the ones in the front. Because shark teeth aren't attached to gums on a root like ours, they lose on average a tooth a week. Also, unlike humans, each lost tooth can be replaced within a day. Okay, so it's that sounds like Arlong, right? It's like Oda took inspiration from, you know, real shark fact, but then he made it obviously because Arlong is not just a shark, he's a fishman, so it's like he upped the power. Next, just a fun fact, all sharks are born with teeth. They need them to survive their brothers and sisters, who will gobble each other up in the womb. Talk about sibling rivalry. That's a weird fact. Like, imagine being born with teeth, a full set of teeth, just because otherwise you'd get eaten up. Like, you have to be able to defend yourself. Like, what? In the womb. Unlike most animals who have upper jaws that are firmly attached to their skulls, this is a fun fact taking into consideration the fight between Luffy and Arlong. Unlike most animals who have upper jaws that are firmly attached to their skulls, sharks bite with both their upper and lower jaws. Bad news for quick swimmers, that upper jaw also detaches, allowing sharks to thrust their entire mouths forward when attacking for a bite with a bigger reach. And, you know, that's interesting considering Arlong's biting power. It really makes you appreciate his power. I don't know, not appreciate in a good way, but just understand why his bite is so strong. I wonder how much of this or other facts Oda took into account when designing these characters, e.g. Hachi the octopus and Chu the, well, I'm not sure what kind of sea creature Chu is, to be honest. I believe their designs and skills were definitely inspired by the real-life creatures they are based on, but obviously altered for a better or more lethal characters. For example, shark teeth can grow back within a day, but Arlong's teeth grow back within a few seconds. He's a fishman after all. Okay, this is Arlong's face while he was mutilating Luffy, when he thought he was mutilating Luffy, or so he thought. And then this is Arlong's face realizing he's been mutilating one of his own men. Boom, boom, boom. I read someone's comment saying, at least Arlong cares about his men. I don't get that at all. Are you saying, despite all the innocent people Arlong has mercilessly killed, and despite him forcing people to buy their own lives for crazy amounts of money, we shouldn't forget that at least he cares about his men? As if that somehow makes a part of him good. I would understand an argument like, Nami steals from people, but at least she only steals from pirates, and she does it for a good reason, to save the people of Kokoyashi village. That makes sense. Stealing in and of itself is not an evil act. It's wrong for many reasons, because we as a community decided it's wrong, because we made rules so that everything's more fair for people, but essentially I don't think stealing is wrong, especially if you look at it in different contexts, like the way Nami is stealing, but she's doing it for the best reason. But saying, well, at least Arlong cares about his men, as if the same principle applies, no, I don't think so. There's no at least in my eyes. He's killed many innocent people among other evil things, and therefore at least nothing, period. To me, people aren't either good or bad. You know, there's a scale. You have good people and not so good people and baddish people, and, you know, there's a scale depending on what you do, who you are. And personally, I just believe after you reach a certain point in the scale and you go past that point and lower, there's no at least this or this or this. Like, after killing not just 1, but 2, 3, 4 innocent people, you've gone down that thing so far. There's no at least. Not in my eyes. This was one of my favorite scenes from the episode. Luffy mocking Arlong's laugh is everything. I love that. Arlong ends up biting hard into Luffy's elbow. If Luffy's arms can stretch, it means that his bones are rubber too. Of course, sharp teeth can still cut into rubber, but his bones can't technically break, right? I'm not sure how that works. In the SBS, I did see Oda say in the SBS, I did read Oda saying to someone that Luffy's penis can stretch too, LOL. And in a more recent SBS, Zagrash sends them to me every now and then when I've reached a certain part in the anime. I saw someone also ask about Buggy, and this is the exact question and answer. Yo, so this is the first time we've talked, A-chan. I'm so embarrassed. Anyway, I have a question. Buggy the Clown can split himself in pieces, right? Which means he can also do it down there, if you catch my drift. I can't get any more specific. Don't make me say it. Don't draw anything until you answer this question. And then Oda just says, his penis can fly too. That is weird. But, makes sense. When Arlong made this face, Sanji said that these are the same eyes the Deep Sea King has when he attacks. I half said in the reaction, so he's getting serious now. But I don't think he hasn't been serious until now. I think he's just really he's starting to lose his cool and becoming more animalistic. The episode ends with Luffy and Arlong in the map room of Arlong Park. Despite fishmen knowing the sea like the back of their hands, apparently they can't draw maps, which if they know the sea like the back of their hands, why would you need maps anyway? Which doesn't entirely make sense to me, but okay, Arlong. Luffy ends the episode by saying, Nami is our navigator. I'm really looking forward to what's coming next. I'm hoping to see Nami finish Arlong off, but it doesn't really matter who finishes him off. I just like to see some poetic justice after the 8 years of hell he's been putting her through. I'll see if I can do 3 episodes again. This will be Tuesday. I record One Piece on Tuesdays. Let's quickly just look at my schedule. Sorry, the next One Piece day is Tuesday. I'm also watching Drifters that day. I'll see if I can do 3 episodes of One Piece on Tuesday, but then I'll be editing it on Wednesday and finishing it off and uploading on Thursday. Sorry, let me know if you guys would prefer 3 episodes, but then I would just need more time to edit. But I also need to take into consideration the other videos that I have to edit throughout the week. But luckily for a lot of my Patreon exclusive videos, I don't need to edit because I just post them full reactions straight up to Patreon, like Drifters, Danmachi, Tokyo Ghoul, Magical Index, Angel Beats, At some point, maybe I need to start thinking about aiming to get an editor who can edit reaction highlights for me. I don't know. That's it from me today, guys. Those are my thoughts on episode 40, 41, and 42. I actually initially thought I wasn't going to have too much to say because it was mostly fighting. But then when you start watching the episodes, you realize how many themes and stuff are intertwined even within the action scenes. And it's really exciting, and I love getting to know the characters through their words, through the way they approach fighting, all this kind of stuff. And yeah, I really enjoyed these 3 episodes. Next will be 43, 44, and 45. That's if I can get to 3 episodes next week, but we will see. Okay, thank you guys for listening to me. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comment section. I'll see you guys next time.